with me here today is ParallaxStella, the moniker of Stella Chung. You do hosting and esports, you have IGN programming, you've done award shows, game reviews, you do tabletop role play. You also started doing lifting competitions and you do a lot of interviews. You've got quite a lot of skill sets and tasks, jobs, parts of your career that you've dipped into. So with all that said, in your eyes, who is Stella Chung, aka ParallaxStella?
Still definitely a nerd, but like a buff nerd now. So professional buff nerd. So yeah, I don't know. It's always so interesting to try and label myself because it's like I don't know. I'm in so many different corners, but yeah, I don't know. I am a super nerd who loves games. I will play games for like 5 hours on end, nonstop, just sit on my butt, which is a problem. But then also, alternatively, I can also spend like 2 hours at the gym. So, yeah, I don't know.
Super nerd, now buff nerd.
Professional buff nerd.
Professional buff nerd. You've won some competitions now, right?
Yeah,
How's that been going?
Win. Did I win? I think I won one competition. And then I am gearing up for another one, which is actually and now it's officially recognized by the U.S. national sanctioned program because it's the US APL. So it's like a specific set of rules, specific set of guidelines you need to go through, and no drugs. So there's drug testing, which is really cool. And if you are able to get within a certain amount of weight for each lift, you can qualify for the national competition, which is really cool.
Is that something you're working towards now?
I think it'd be fun. I don't know if I'd be able to just because there's so many strong people out there, but it is something that would be really cool if I could do it. So I would say I'm working towards it, but I'm definitely realistically, I'm like, it's fine. I know it's like my part-time. It's a hobby as opposed to a job like most of these people.
You know, I've seen people who have really excelled in those kinds of competitions and they don't look like the kind of person that would. Like their body type doesn't even look like that. So I think it has a lot to do with just dedication, form, and practice. So I feel like that's something you definitely got potential in doing if it was something you were interested in.
Yeah, I just can't sit for 5 hours playing a game, you know. It's a little detrimental to the whole process, but yeah.
It is a bit of a clashing career there. And you do what you do for a living, and then you also have this like very fitness-oriented hobby that you get into. So, all right.
It's very funny.
Here we go. Why don't you tell us something about yourself that nobody knows?
Ooh, that nobody knows. That's tough because I'm such an open book.
Yeah.
So someone out there has like a specific little secret piece that I've like said probably like 5 years ago. And I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't even remember that. Let's see. Something that someone doesn't know. That people don't know. Man, I've said like almost everything at this point. Okay. I mean, well, this is one that I don't really talk about too much, but I used to steal things when I was a kid. I loved stealing things, but like it wasn't like it was weird. I didn't steal good things. It was stupid. I stole stupid things that I wanted. Like, I think one time we were at a Macy's. I was real small. I was like maybe under 10. And I remember I saw this like nail polish that was the shape of a rose. Like the stem was the brush holder or whatever. And then like the rose part had like the nail polish in it. And I remember I was like, oh, that's really cool. I want that. So I remember slipping it into my like big puffer jacket sleeve, and I walked out and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I got away with that. And then I got home and then I panicked and I was like, oh my God, I got away with that. So then I went to school the next day and I handed it to someone and I was like, don't tell anyone I gave this to you, just this is yours now. And she was like, oh, okay, thanks. So, you know, I guess I gave someone a gift, but it was really me just trying to get rid of my guilt.
Oh my goodness. Why did you do that? Like, was it just like an impulsive thing or?
I don't know. I think so. I grew up really poor, so I think that also had to do something with it. But it's so funny because I stole it and then I didn't even want it. So I think it was just a lot of like, ooh, that looks really cool. I wish I could have it, but I can't. But let me just steal it anyways. And then I
kind of see what happens, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Is that something you did like often, or was it just like that isolated time?
It was like, I think it was like it was like 2 times. Actually, it's really funny. One time there were a few times that I didn't know I was actually stealing because my parents made me think that it was okay. So, you know, those like at the grocery store, there's like the bulk candy stuff where you can like reach in and scoop stuff out, right?
Yeah, I love those.
Yeah, right. So my parents would always take one and like, you know, hand it to us and then we'd eat it. And they're like, oh, we're just sampling. And I was like, oh, okay, that's it. As a kid, I was like, oh, yeah, that's sampling. I remember getting one of those like orange wafers out of the thing. And this one lady just like stared me down. And I was like, can I help you? And she said, oh, nothing, just watching a little thief. And I was like, oh, wait, am I supposed to pay for that? Wait, oh. So that's when I was like, oh, maybe that's, we're not supposed to sample. But so that's an example of me not realizing, but that's something that my family did. But I remember specifically stealing that rose nail polish. And then the second one was this like Barbie Nutcracker dancer. Like she was a ballerina from the Nutcracker. It was this tree ornament, and it was same thing from Macy's, I think. And I remember looking at it and I was like, oh, it's so pretty. I really want it. I loved Barbies back then. So I did steal that one and I kept it. And then my mom found it one day when she was blow drying my hair and she got very upset and we had to drive back to Macy's and I had to apologize. And the lady was like, oh, that's fine. Like, I remember the lady being like, we don't care. Like, she just did not care. But my mom was like so embarrassed. So I felt embarrassed, but it was really funny because I remember the lady being like, oh, this is not that big of a deal. It's fine.
She was probably more shocked that somebody actually came back than anything.
Oh, yeah, probably. And I was displaying like huge amounts of guilt. Like I was bawling. I was like, I'm so sorry. Because, you know, I grew up very religious. So my parents were like, oh, you're going to go to hell. I was like, oh, my God, over a Barbie trinket? Like, yeah. So I was panicking.
Have you always been into like so many different things like you are? Because like, you know, it sounds like even as a kid, you were quite boisterous and active. Like, have you always been this way, or is this something that you kind of developed later in life?
I think I've always been that way. It's gotten more, let's see, my interests change faster now as an adult. But I think that's because I just have more, I have more jurisdiction over my life as opposed to being like under my parents' roof and stuff. But I think part of that also was because of my dad. Every week he would have like a new sport that he was super into. So I remember one time he was really into basketball. So we got basketballs and we played a lot on the court. And then 2 weeks later, he was really into like skiing. So he bought his own skis and stuff. So I think that kind of fueled the curiosity, at least the physical aspect of it. And then the one thing that stayed consistent with me is that I really loved writing. I wanted to be like an author when I was a kid. I knew this from when like I was very little, which was very weird. But I loved reading books. I thought that storytelling was really cool. So that was the one thing that stuck with me. But every time I would start to write a book, I would always get another idea and jump to that. So I guess in that aspect, I would always jump around.
Sounds familiar to me. Oh my goodness.
Good old ADHD, dude.
Yup. Yes, indeed. Boy, it's a lifestyle. It's the only way we can say it. So I didn't know you wanted to be an author. Is that something you're still interested in?
Maybe. It's been so growing up, I definitely really liked fantasy and fiction, but I'm like, man, I don't know if the story ideas that I had as a kid would be good now. So because a lot of them were sparked off like the anime I liked. So when I got really into One Piece, I was like, oh, I want to write a pirate book. And I was like, looking back at it now, it's very close to what One Piece was doing. So I was like, I think they're closer to like fanfics, some of the things that I did. Other ideas I think could probably be expanded on, but it's weird. Once I leave a project, I don't really like coming back to it. So if I were to write something, it'd be something completely different. I actually have thought about writing a book. One of my friends who owns a publishing company came to me about it and was like, hey, if you want to write a book, let us know, like pitch something to us. And the latest thing that I thought about was maybe like a Helldivers fan book, which would be really cool because I think there's a lot that can be done with the world of Helldivers. But I don't know. There's a lot of licensing issues and stuff. So I don't know all that. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. I'll stick to writing articles and op-eds, which are fine for now. But I don't know. I feel like I did talk to my friend about like, oh, potentially the one thing that I could really write easily is like a memoir, like a piece on myself. But I don't know if people are interested or like know me, and or if enough people know me for me to do that, you know, because I've been really into people's biographies, autobiographies, memoirs. Trevor Noah's book was really good about his upbringing and how he got into the entertainment industry. Same with Patrick Stewart. I think those are the most interesting books to me right now, even more so than like House of the Dragon, which I love that show. But I don't know, something about nonfiction, which I hated as a kid, I love now.
Interesting. Do you think your interest in being an author, you know, in your childhood is connected to like what you do now? Because you do write like a lot of reviews and create scripts for videos and whatnot. Do you think there's a connection there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think writing had a lot to do with it. I mean, in college, I took writing classes and I loved creative writing, but then we would also have to do nonfiction pieces. And I ended up really liking that as well. So I think it's something that grew on me. I was very like one dimensional in terms of just wanting to do creative fictional writing. And then I realized that there's other types of writing that I could do that could be a little bit better in terms of a career, just because it's a little more consistent. There's always news. There's not always a story that you can like conjure up in your head.
That's a good point. How long have you been doing that kind of work then? Because I know you've done stuff like you did have an educational background in journalism, right? So
actually it was elementary education. So I was going to be a elementary school teacher.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I got that wrong. So how long have you been like working on stuff like that that's related to that? The whole like content, you know, journalism, video game industry. Like how long has that gone back for you now?
I think it's like 5 years now. I would have to double check. I think 5 is 5 because I started 2019, early 2019. So that's when I really got into. That was my first year at IGN. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you've been there since then. Mm-hmm. What did you start out doing at IGN?
Yeah, so I was a gameplay producer, associate gameplay producer. It was a contract role for about like a year, I think. And I was basically just in charge of getting recording the first whatever minutes of the latest game that came out, just so people could see the first minutes. That was something that was very popular. Or if people needed B-roll for things, I would be the person to go to get that. Also specifically for like Fortnite. I was supposed to be someone who helmed that because Fortnite was just so big back then. Right. So that was kind of my job. And then that sort of when I forget what it was, but I think it was like a specific Apex season that came out. When I saw the trailer, I was like, oh my God, I know the lore behind this. Like, can I make a video? And they're like, yeah, sure. Whatever. Do that. So I did it. And it actually popped. It has like it like got 1 million views and people were like, oh, she actually really knows her stuff. She knows how to write things. Like that was me breaking down the lore from like Titanfall into Apex. It was very nerdy, but it did a lot of views and people were like, oh, she can do other things than just gameplay capture. So that's kind of what sparked the jump to other things, I think. That and the fact that they were like, oh, she's comfortable on camera. That's fine. We'll just throw her in front of a camera.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought that up because that's breaking into, you know, a follow-up question I had was like, how did it feel to continually like make your way up through IGN? You know, and how did you do it? And obviously that was one of the ways you did it there. Yeah,
I think just timing. If that cinematic trailer had not dropped within the first year of me being in IGN, I don't know if I would have been able to get the same recognition, right? It's different. I mean, the games industry is always in flux. It's always moving. It's always updating. So it was really cool to see that, especially since when I did apply for the job, one of my videos was like a Titanfall video I had like a while ago. So that it was very cool to see that come full circle.
It's interesting to put it in perspective because like if you think about it, like how does this feel? If you hadn't made that video about the lore, what would your career look like right now?
Honestly, okay. Maybe I have to like backtrack. I feel like it maybe wouldn't have changed too much just because I was familiar, like I was very comfortable with being on camera. So I feel like that opened up a lot of doorways. So maybe eventually they would have had me write scripts, which I did for our specific news show and stuff. So I think maybe it wouldn't have changed too much, but I think the expertise in FPS games specifically, that really stemmed from that moment. And I genuinely think that I've been able to bridge the gap between like the developers of Titanfall and Apex, Respawn. I've been able to bridge the gap between them and IGN. So I've been able to get a really good, good friendship going with the PR folks there. So anytime there's news, oftentimes they'll come to us for breaking, and it's me that'll write it. So that's been really cool to see, like that culminated over the years.
It's you brought up an interesting point there, because to me, from my end, it looks like we can't credit any sort of virality with your success. So you have confidence in all your capabilities and what you do and have done that you think you just would have gotten there anyway. And I feel like that touches on a topic that I think a lot of people are constantly chasing, which is virality. Like, what do you think of virality and how important is that?
It definitely helps. I mean, I feel like it's a lot more, I feel like it's a lot more at the forefront now, especially with TikTok and, you know, all these flash hits that people, I mean, oh my God, you know about the Hak Tua girl, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but everybody knows about it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's that. Like, here's the thing though. You can't have virality and you can't just ride off of that. You have to have stuff to back. You have to have talents and other things to back you up, because otherwise you're going to fade away, because it's just a blip in the internet, right? The biggest person that really capitalized off her virality was probably Brittany Broski, who, I mean, I know she has problems as being a content creator, but who doesn't? But she was that one meme who, when she took a sip of kombucha, she was like, ooh, maybe. And like her reactions got turned into memes, still photos. It was like a GIF. And she actually started making really funny videos that capitalized off of that momentum. And that just kind of helped boost her career. So she did it in a really smart way. Like she already had that humor base, as opposed to the Hak Tua girl, where she's signed with a talent agency, but we don't know what she's selling. So it's very interesting how people choose to go down their different career paths in this industry. But you definitely need something. You need meat. You need like something to sustain that. Otherwise, it's just going to die out.
It's almost like virality has just kind of replaced the old phrase that's been around a long time, the whole 15 minutes of fame thing.
Yeah, now it's like 5 seconds of fame.
Yeah. So you've had those skills and those and the drive and the initiative to take advantage of that opportunity. And that touches on another question that I was curious about. Like, how much of your life has kind of been in that direction as far as luck? Because that's, a lot of people would call that luck. And do you think you're lucky, or are you self-actualized?
No, definitely not lucky, because I definitely struggled a ton before getting to this point. So I've been very open about this. I was going to college. I did not know what I wanted to do. I went through like so many different changes that if I had graduated, I think I would have had like 3 minors or something, which is kind of crazy. So by the time I figured out what I wanted to do in college, I was so burnt out. I decided to take a break through one of my, I guess, situationship at the time. It had introduced me to Twitch and like Riot Esports with League, and it was really cool. I was like, oh, this is such an interesting concept. And I had tried to do some minor like YouTube Let's Plays and stuff, but it wasn't really anything. I occasionally posted some cosplay videos and such, but it really didn't pop off. And I was like, oh, I want to try doing the gaming thing. I was so inconsistent with it. Also, something about just gaming for YouTube specifically didn't hit with me. But one night during the break, I decided to stream The Walking Dead season 1, the Telltale series. And it was like episode 2 or something. I was like, let me just play this because I'm so behind. I haven't been able to upload this on YouTube. If I play this now, then I can just upload the whole thing up on YouTube. It'll be great. And I actually got people in on my stream. And it was really funny because I was working on this tiny, tiny little glass desk with a tiny little desk light as the light. And my roommate was sleeping on the couch behind me. And it looked so bad. Like I was whispering. I had a Turtle Beach headset. You could barely hear me over the game. But I loved talking with people so much that the next day I went out and got like the really crappy Snowball Yeti mic. And I used that to talk into. And it was really funny. I was like, I connect so much more with this, but I think it's because I talk to people versus talking at my screen when I'm playing a game. I really like sharing this experience with people. I think it's fun. So that kind of kicked things off. And then I just, that break from college kind of turned into an extended thing. But full-time streaming was definitely not as lucrative as I wanted it to be, even living in Indiana at the time. So I did take up like part-time jobs. It was also very tough because my roommate at the time was not really working. She was chronically ill. So I had to take up a lot of the rent. And even though like $2,000 or like $1,500 doesn't sound like a lot, but for someone who's like mostly making money on the internet, and this was before like tipping and stuff, like you had to go through different avenues to link your PayPal to your Twitch. And I wasn't even a partner then. So it was a lot harder to make money on Twitch. And it was definitely a struggle. I eventually moved out because things got a little bit difficult for me there. Moved in with some friends. Then I moved to California with my partner at the time, which if I did not have him, I would not have been able to make that move, which I do very much attest to. And like, I'm very open about it because like, dude, a cross country move is hard and it is very expensive. Yeah. So basically I just threw everything I could into my tiny Toyota Camry and I drove it all the way across the country, and whatever I had in there was my belongings. And I set up there for like a year or two before we broke up. And then I moved out on my own, was in a really bad relationship with someone else, was living with them. And then I finally moved out and I was living with a really nice roommate who we're still friends. But I realized through all that time, I think it was like 4 or 5 years. I was like, oh my God, I moved out to California to do stuff with gaming and I haven't done anything. And it was just hard because I was working like 2-3 jobs, just trying to make rent in LA. Which is why I tell people like, don't move out here unless you have a job lined up, because it's not a smart move. But yeah. And then I saw oh my God, what was it? I saw my previous boss's tweet on Twitter about an opening in IGN, which was the gameplay producer. And I replied back on Twitter and he was like, oh, hey, he DM'd me and he was like, hey, you should send an email with your resume and whatever video you might have as like a reel. So I did that. And then I ended up submitting the application because he was interested in seeing my application come through. And then I went through like 2 rounds of interviews. I did like an assignment, which was a basic like, oh, here's what you need to know about this season update video. And I ended up getting the job. And then I moved to San Francisco, where I moved in with my then partner. And it kind of wrote itself from there. I struggled for a while too then, because my partner was definitely the more well-known person. He worked at Twitch and he was a very famous, very popular, like a partnerships manager. So it's actually very funny to see the change from being, oh, you're so-and-so's girlfriend to now, oh, you're Stella Chung. But the path to get there from even starting at IGN, but it took a while.
Wow, it sounds like you had quite the bumpy road there.
Yeah.
Moving to LA.
That's me not even like going into the details.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I've heard stories about, not you particularly, but certain people who used to be at Twitch, and there's a lot of interesting details that I'm sure people can find out on their own. But yeah. Sounds like I didn't realize you were actually, we'll say victim of all of that. So
well, I will say he's not one of the problematic ones. He was very nice. We just we just grew apart, honestly. That's what happened. He's a good person. Okay. I don't think he's one of the people that you're thinking of, which is fine. All right, good. Yeah.
I was concerned for a minute. No. I mean, you're in a good spot now, so.
Yeah, okay, it was cool. It was just one of those things of like, oh, you don't see me as a person, you see me as an attachment to a person. And then that eventually, like, I became my own person. And I think that evolution is when I was like, oh, okay, I guess I am someone in the industry that people know. Okay.
I've seen that actually a lot on Twitch specifically, like when there are like well-known couples, and if one of them is like much more well-known than the other, people start to do that. And I see that, in the entertainment industry as a whole. Like, how do you think, for anyone that may be curious, like, how do you navigate that, as being on the other side of that?
I think it's tough because I think specifically when you're saying, oh, your male partner's partner, it's a little different as opposed to like when you're the female person's partner. I think that's not okay. Hopefully that's not too confusing. But yeah, I think, I don't know.
Are you saying basically like there's a different dynamic if you are the woman versus the man, and the man is more well known versus the woman, right?
Yeah, Understood. It's definitely different because there's always that thought. There's always that like, I guess, stereotype of women wanting to chase men who make lots of money, right? Like, and so it's like, oh, you're just like an attachment, as opposed to like if you're the boyfriend of a girl, then it's like, oh, well, he's just with her because she's hot. I mean, I get it. It's very different. But I don't know. Navigating that was, I don't think there was anything I could have done. I did try to stand out as my own person by like talking about the things that I do, things that I liked. But I think it was very hard to separate myself from the person I was with, because to the outside eye, that was my personality, right? Like that's how they knew me as. So.
So you just try to stand out, but the internet being the internet, people will draw their own conclusions and not change their mind.
Yeah. Eventually I just stopped caring and I was like, whatever.
So, okay, let's talk more about the things you've done that have helped you stand out. You've hosted the D.I.C.E Awards. What is it? Twice now? Is that right?
Yeah, twice.
This is like, I would say arguably some of the highest profile work you've done. Like, how did you accomplish that?
Yeah, God, you know what? I wish I could tell you. It's so weird. I got the email saying that they wanted me to co-host, and I was like, I don't know if this is real. And I sat in a meeting with them and they told me what they were looking for. And they said that I came highly recommended. And I was like, oh my God, okay, cool. And I said, yeah, I would absolutely love to take this on. I was so scared that I was not, the imposter syndrome was so real. I was so scared that I was not going to do well. And, I later found out that it was actually Greg Miller who had recommended me and wanted me as his duo because we had done such great things on different shows together. He really advocated for me. And it was very funny. And when I went on his show, Kind of Funny, to do the announcements for the nominees at D.I.C.E and the fact that we were co-hosting, I told him that he did something that I think I forget how I said it, but I said something along the lines of, I'm glad that he was the white man who gave me a platform. Something like that. Because it's true. It's true. He honestly, he had the power to pick anyone, right? He had, I think it was Jessica Chobot for a really long time. And then I think she moved out of the country. She wanted to do other things. And he selected me, which that was a huge, if he hadn't recommended me, I don't know what the list would have looked like. So I think it was who I knew and him trusting and believing in my abilities, which was, I am so grateful to him for believing in me like that. Cause I don't know. I feel like we've done a few shows together, and apparently in that time he's like, yeah, I think you're great. I think you're a great host and we get along really well. And yeah, I would love for you to be my co-host. And I was like, okay, cool.
Well, there's certainly quite a bit of virality, speaking to that again, that came out of the last award show. I saw a lot of clips of you two on that stage with some pretty funny hot takes about certain people.
Yeah, I love the D.I.C.E Awards because they pretty much let us say whatever we want within reason. Obviously, we can't curse or anything. But yeah, I do appreciate that. The last awards this year, we were able to kind of say, hey, if you want to say anything about recent events in the world, we couldn't name them specifically. And if you want to talk about layoffs, please do. Like, this is your place, which I really love that about the D.I.C.E Awards. It's more about the developers than it is for the viewers. It's really about celebrating the people who bring us the entertainment. And I think that's what sets it apart from like the Game Awards or, well, I guess BAFTA Awards, it's kind of the same thing too. But I don't know. I think there's more to be said about a ceremony and a weekend that really celebrates and kind of helps bring together the people who make the gaming industry possible.
Have you ever been able to work an event, a freelance gig, or a job that gave you that much like creative freedom to speak out on things important to you?
I think that might be the only one, just because the other ones are pretty straightforward on what they want, right? So it's mostly me interviewing people or me hosting things, which is or like casting, which is very, there's a schedule, you know what you need to do, you know what you need to focus on. I think, but that is why I did turn down the Esports World Cup opportunity, because I knew that I was going to be suppressed quite a bit, and actually seeing the Saudi Arabia. Yep. Because I did actually specifically ask them. I was like, hey, so I'm very openly like tattooed, and like I'm openly bisexual. Also, I'm a woman of color. Like, am I going to be able to be myself? And they're like, well, there's some things that you would have to, like, we have some guidelines, and, you know, there's some things you have to stick by. And I was like, okay, great. So that's a no. Okay, that's fine. And having seen the clothing that the women who did go had to wear, I was like, oh yeah, I would have been dying. Also, I wouldn't have been able to show off all my cool tattoos. So it's fine.
How important is it to you to have that kind of empowerment in your, you know, your job and your contracts?
I think very important. Another part of that contract was that you wouldn't be able to speak ill of the royal family, the country, any of the rules or governing ideals. You also couldn't say anything bad about the tournament itself, if anything, like even if it's like a constructive criticism. And I was like, no, we need to be able to, I don't know, maybe it's me as also my half of being a journalist. You need to have that integrity to be able to speak on the way things are. And I understand that I'm under a contract and you're using me as like a creator, as an influencer or whatever. But also, I don't like lying to people. And so that's something that is really important to me. And luckily, I've not had a lot of contracts that have violated that. But I don't know, it's real tough to try and negotiate that. Especially when it's Saudi Arabia reaching out to you. Yeah, that's very important to me, just because I didn't go into this industry thinking that I needed more representation, because I was like, oh, my Twitch stream, even though it's very small, full of really great people, I barely get trolls and stuff. And then as soon as I started working at IGN, at a platform that is much higher in terms of public eye, I was like, oh, it's still bad out here. So I think that's when I really started to care about the fact that I could be representation to some people. And that's when I started taking a little bit more seriously. And I was like, no, I definitely have rules that I need to stick with. So
how do you make that decision where you have to choose between like your own integrity versus putting food on the table?
Dude, it's hard. I wanted to take that EWC opportunity. I really did. Yeah, I mean, it was the Esports World Cup. I think it would have been great. But I was also very terrified about being there. So that was a big thing. I was like, okay, is it worth potentially losing my life, right? Because I mean, they're known for also taking down dissident journalists. And hey, man, like I'm like one tweet away from that. So it was very, very tempting, because I think it would have been a great opportunity. Also, as a person of color, I don't get a lot of opportunities, and I feel like I've been getting edged out of esports stuff, which is actually, it's very interesting, because my friend who is a white man, he speaks a lot to, like, when he made his post about why he was pulling out of everything EWC related, he was like, I know I have the freedom to do this, and I am financially okay to do this, but I know a lot of people aren't. So I appreciated that honesty, because it's true. That's why I know some people took it, because it would have helped them. It was a lot of money, obviously, because Saudi Arabia has a lot of money and they're trying to sports wash. So, of course, they're going to spend as much as they want. But I think that the EWC specifically just did not sit well with me, because that same friend I was talking to him about it, and he was like, you could go out there and be that representation that people want to see and probably need in that specific tournament, but they could also use you as an example of how they're growing and becoming more diverse and being more open-minded. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to be that example. I don't want to be that like picture on their pitch card being like
minority, basically.
And I was like, I think I would do more by not taking their money and being on their cameras. So it was a very tough decision. I had to take a day to really think about it. Especially since I knew a lot of the castmates working on that show, that specific show. But yeah, ultimately I was like, this is not worth it, because I thought about how I would feel if, I don't know, like past me, if I looked at that, like, do you really feel the same way about these ideals that you've been talking about when you went and did this? So that was kind of my ultimate decision. I was like, no, I would not feel good about this.
How did people react to that decision? Because you made it rather public on social media.
Oh my God. It was mixed. It was so mixed, which, I mean,
really,
I didn't owe anyone anything, but I did want to talk and bring eyes to the fact that the EWC is just sports washing. And like, obviously people who, they were going to take very good care of the talent that went there, which I did see that they did. And of course, everyone was posting about how amazing it was. And I'm like, you guys are so dumb. Like, I'm so sorry, but you're so dumb. Obviously, they're going to take care of you. They want you to come back and work for them and promote this so that people think that it's changed, which is exactly what I told them. I was like, this is what they're doing. It's tough. I saw very mixed replies, and even some people that I knew who did choose to go, all I wanted for them was to understand why people were backing out and boycotting. And I was very disappointed in some people's responses as to why they went, and no acknowledgement of understanding what is happening in that atmosphere. And I think it made me feel very withdrawn from some of the people that I worked with, because, oh my God, the privilege. Like I was like, oh my God, I did not know you were like this, but I'm kind of glad for the experience because now I know. Yeah.
Kind of self-reported a bunch of people.
Yes. So.
And it looked like you were just seeking understanding and not judgment on people.
Yeah, I also wanted to express the fact that I had been asked, because, I mean, a lot of people were bailing, right? A lot of people were bailing. Also, I was like one of 2 people of color that they asked to be on the Apex cast. So there was that. Pretty sure there was only 1 that ended up on the cast, but I'm not sure. I would have to go back and look. So I was like, I mean, I feel like there's a reason why I was picked. And I was like, I'm not giving them that reason. Right.
So, it's pretty obvious that, people of color have a more difficult time finding opportunities in various industries, if not most of them. What can people in positions of privilege do to help them?
I mean, I think the best example is what Greg did for me, right? He helped me. He got me on the shows with him, his daily show, podcasts, just gave me a platform to really voice my opinions and show who I am, my personality. He gave me that opportunity, and even 5 minutes of that on someone's platform who has a lot of followers, a lot of viewers, that does a lot for someone. So stuff like that. I mean, you can always give a guest spot. You can give them the space to talk about things that they want to and showcase who they are. But that's always a rough question, because I'm like, oh, I don't know. Give me your job. Yeah, right?
Yeah. Speaking of opportunities, you've interviewed a lot of people, from big celebrities to just, parallel internet personalities, for example, Haley Atwell recently and Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
What did that mean to you? And do you have an all-time favorite person that you've interviewed?
Trying to think of my favorite interview. I feel like my favorite interview would not be someone famous. Honestly, it's probably an indie dev. I think that the most, you know what? The one that stands out to me are the devs of Cyberpunk. I've talked to quite a few of them. And they're so very passionate about their game, about their craft, about the story. I remember at D.I.C.E. this year, we just like, I ended up talking to, I think it was the game director. We just spent like an hour talking about the game and our favorite things about it. And, you know, he asked like, oh, how did you feel like we handled the DLC's character okay? Because she's South Korean. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I thought it was great. So it was very good conversations that we had, even just as a dialogue outside of the interview. But I love any sort of interview where I'm able to really bring out the person's passions for whatever we're talking about. And you really get to see that with developers, especially with indie game developers, like the Dungeons of Hinterberg developers. They were so sweet. They were so excited to talk about their game and why they were motivated to make the game a certain way. So I loved talking to them about that. With celebrities, I think that means a lot to me just because it means that I can handle talking to people at a certain level of entertainment culture. I don't really think of celebrities as different from normal people because they're just other people that were put on a pedestal. Obviously, they were really good actors and stunt people, just talent I don't have. But yeah, I think it just meant that I'm really good at my job, that I can also do that in the entertainment sphere. So that made me feel really good. So I guess it was more like oh, hey, I've gotten to this point, you know?
So it was more like a new height that you reached in your career, a recognition of what you've done than so much being able to meet those people.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong, meeting Tom Cruise and Haley and Simon Pegg was really cool, but like I think it was just the fact that like, oh my God, I worked really hard and I got here. Now I get to talk to Tom Cruise and tell him about growing up on his movies.
You earn the privilege versus being offered something like a gift.
Yeah, it was very rewarding. And also I was in Rome, which was awesome.
What was it? Was that your first time there?
Yeah.
What was it like being there? Like, what did it mean to you to be there?
It was hot, but it was so cool. Well, Rome has always been one of my cities that I really wanted to travel to. Like I've always wanted to go to Rome. So that was great. I didn't get to see everything because it was a very short trip. But I got to see the big fountain and I got to have really good gelato. I walked around. It was my first like real solo travel trip in a while. So I was a little nervous going out, but I realized that in Europe, it's a lot safer to walk around alone, even at night. So I know. Yeah, I know. But, it meant a lot. I felt very independent. It felt really good. A lot of it was just very like validating for me. I walked around by myself. I toured a little bit. I came up with the interview questions mostly myself, and I did do the interviews and everything. Yeah, it was really cool. I've always wanted to be there. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm here for free with work. Okay, that's pretty neat. That's pretty neat.
You mentioned that one of your favorite things about doing interviews is bringing out the passion in other people. How do you try to do that? What is your method?
I feel like I don't really have a method, but I think definitely treating people like they're just another person, as opposed to like, oh my God, this is the voice actor. Like, oh my God, it's Idris Elba, the voice actor of this guy. Definitely just talking to them like they're normal people. I always start things off when we're sitting down and getting mic'd up and we're testing things. I always like to talk to the person about how their day is, how they're enjoying whatever the event is that they're there for, talking to them about, oh, I like your outfit today. And, you know, going into conversation about why they chose that, or I guess picking out unique things about them that I notice. So, for example, with the Mission Impossible writer and director, he had matched everything to his glasses, which was white. And I was like, oh my God, that's such a cool outfit coordination. And he goes, yeah, thanks. My wife selected it. And I was like, oh, okay. Does she do a lot of that around the house too? Like she pushes you around and he's like, yeah. I mean, even the dog matches my outfit. So it kind of brought out this like fun conversation that loosens loosened him up. So we were able to go into the interview questions pretty easily, because a lot of these people, not celebrities, but like developers and other creators, they're often very nervous on camera. So if you make them feel very comfortable and familiar with you, that's something that often makes an interview even better, because they're now in a comfort zone and they don't feel stiff and rigid and have to give PR answers.
So that's the difference between interviewing someone you just met and interviewing someone you already knew.
I guess so. Like with us, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like we could just slip right into this. You do the same?
Yeah, probably. I'd still do the same, just because, I mean, I don't know. It's always nice to make sure someone's happy, like check their moods and everything.
True. Fair enough. I'm going to write that down. How long have you been doing interviews then?
I think 5 years. Yeah. Because I would sit in on like season update stuff for Apex. And oftentimes you could like ask questions, or you could have one-on-one sessions with the developers and you could talk to them about things. And I would often bring up questions. So, I think since 2019. Yeah.
Is there anyone on your bucket list that you wish you could interview and you want to someday?
I feel like I have quite a few people. Let's see. Who do I want to interview right now, though? I feel like my pick changes depending on the current interest I have. Ooh. You know, I would love to interview Ryan Reynolds. I think he is such a character outside of his roles. He's just a character as a person. I really want to pick his brain about life and his work. Just because I feel like he would be very down. I've seen several interviews of him just being like a normal person, acting like a friend to the interviewer and stuff. And I just feel like he'd be very fun to talk to.
Are there other interviewers that you watch that you think are really good at what they do and would be a good example?
There's one guy in, I think, the rapper circle who's I forget his name, but he's all over TikTok. Yes, him. Yeah, I think he's great. He does a lot of research, which really shows. Yeah, he's the one that I can think of right now. I don't generally watch a lot of interviews. I like I said, I really like reading like the memoirs from the person themselves. So I don't really like a lot of the interviews. I'm like, okay, they're kind of samey. Also, if they're about a movie or a game, I'm like, okay, well, I kind of know that. It's fine. Yeah, so I don't think I really watch or listen to a lot of interviews.
How do you feel about interviews? Like, you know, because like you said, a lot of them do seem the samey, and that's kind of why I do these interviews. Because I feel like too many of them just kind of end up on those softball questions that they've been asked a million times.
Yeah.
Like, is there a place for those, or do interviews need to kind of evolve into something else?
I think you can start with those questions as a warm up. I mean, that's why like with like the Mission Impossible guy, I also talked to him about like, oh yeah, well, what was the inspiration behind making the enemy this? Because, you know, and I gave a personal reaction to it, and then that kind of stirred him to give me a more personal background into that, and then it led into more questions that popped into my mind from that basic question that then I could use on camera. I think basic questions do have a place. I mean, there are a lot of people who haven't heard the answers to something that maybe others have heard quite a few times, so there is a space for that. But like if it's for an interview for something specific, let's say for a specific movie, you definitely want to keep it to something exclusive to that, because then that's what people are going to be most curious about. Yeah, even if it's like a fun twist on it, like, oh, do you think this character could survive in this world or whatever? Yeah, I don't know. I think a lot of content creators have also been hired to do like red carpet interviews, and they are really bad because they don't know how to ask questions. They don't know what the good questions are. They know memes, which are like a 5-second fame thing. It's fine, but you don't really get a real connection to the person that you're talking to unless you get a really fun anecdote, you get a fun story. But oftentimes it's hard to trigger that reaction to a joke. You don't really get you don't really get a look into person's personality. It's one of those things of knowing how to bring out a person's fun side. So asking really stupid questions that make them laugh or make them even like try to ask you a question back, and then you guys both think about it. That shows like what that person is capable of, what their brain can think of on the spot. And you're like, oh my God, they're really cool. They're very down to earth. So I think a lot of people have lost the plot with interviewing. But I think it just comes from a lack of experience.
I like that you brought up asking them like silly or fun questions, because I often do things like that during my stream. And, I leave them open-ended so it actually creates discussion versus this is my answer or yes or no. Do you employ tactics like that as well, where you try to keep the answers open-ended, or are you looking for direct answers?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I like direct answers, especially if it's for something that I want solidified, I don't like what ifs. I want all of that stuff answered. But if it's something that's creative, I don't necessarily want a straight answer. I want you to think about it. I want you to give me some weird, dumb answer or a question back to elaborate, and we can make it even more dumb, which I think would be really fun. And that's often how things kind of devolve, which makes it even better, because then you can really see their personality with the way that they decide to expand on things. I love doing fun things. Again, it's about making the person comfortable and making them feel like they can be themselves, which is really huge in an interview.
Do you have a favorite question you like to ask people?
I don't have a favorite question that I like to go back to. I think it's a lot of it is like on the spot. Yeah, I forget. So I think it was on the premiere of Star Wars: The Acolyte, the TV show. I got one of the composers thrown at me because they're like, oh, hey, like his PR handler was like, hey, do you want to interview the composer? Like, he's free. And I was like, sure, I guess. So I had no idea I did not have anything prepped. I was like, yeah, so tell me about the music in this. What is it? Because we didn't get to see it yet. So I was like, what were your inspirations behind it? Which is a very easy one to, asking inspiration is one of the basic ones. And then that triggered something else where he talked about the different instruments that he used. And I thought of a fun question. I was like, okay, so if you could have any soundtrack from any movie be like your life soundtrack, like it follows you around every day, which one would it be? And he was like, oh, he was totally expecting very serious, straightforward questions about his composition. And he was like, oh, that's a good question. I don't know. And then through his answer, which I don't remember what he said, it was like different orchestral stuff, different movie soundtracks. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And from that, you can kind of go into further about the inspiration, say, oh, so would you say that for the fight scenes, you kind of pulled from this genre that you just mentioned? So it's very fun to mess around with silly questions, because then they can often turn into like real questions that have real answers.
So let's talk a little bit more about you and kind of what makes you tick. You're often viewed as having a sassy or spicy personality, especially by people who know you. What are some favorite memories around being who you are in this fashion?
There's so many, but speaking of virality, maybe I should talk about one moment. I was playing Jedi Fallen Order. I think it was the first one. And I remember someone came in and was trying to backseat game me. And I got really frustrated because I was like, hey, I'm playing on the hardest difficulty. I understand that I could do certain things and I'm trying to do those things, but you also don't seem to understand how the game works. And I kind of popped off on them, and that clip ended up going viral, and Dexerto even wrote an article on me, which was very weird.
Wow. So
yeah, I guess that's one of my favorite moments, because there are so many moments that happen that I can't think of one, but that's the one that really stuck with people, I guess. Because a lot of people could attest to also being backseat gamed. So yeah, I guess that's one of the more fun moments. But I don't know, little moments like telling people to suck my balls or whatever. It's very funny because it's like they talk about a serious thing. Like the latest one was like, oh, this person doesn't belong on this podcast. She doesn't know what she's talking about. I was like, okay, suck my balls. And then he got so mad. He was like, F you, you're the worst. Like, oh my God. And I'm like, all I said was suck my balls and you got so mad. That is funny.
Some folks are pretty easy to trigger.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
especially
very fun.
Especially when you present to them the thing that they don't like and just throw it right back at them.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So, okay, let's look at the other side of that. Do you ever fear it pushes people away, or is there a balance?
I don't think it pushes. Okay. The first time that I ever posted something like that, I remember messaging my coworker being like, hey, am I going to get fired for this? And they're like, no, we don't care. They don't care. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. And I don't really care anymore. I think obviously there are certain things you can't say to someone. But I think that I'm not worried about it really pushing anyone away because I wouldn't want those people near me anyways.
Right.
Yeah, honestly, it's a great tool to see who you should mute or block and who you shouldn't, because a lot of the times sometimes it's other women who want to be just awful, and it kind of sucks because it's like, man, we're on the same team, dude. Like, you think that that's going to make them like you more? No, it's not. So it does kind of suck, but it's been a great tool for figuring out who I want in my circle and who I don't.
Kind of a self-filter in a way. Let the trash take itself out.
Yeah.
How important do you think like something like that is for content creation?
Like filtering or clapping back?
Yeah. Well, I guess like it's kind of like a nebulous concept, but like all of that, like kind of establishing those very clear boundaries and sometimes an aggressive way.
I think it's pretty necessary now. The internet has gotten way too big. Twitch has gotten way too big. Twitter's gotten way too big and awful. I think you need to set boundaries. You need to be louder about it because people will just run with it, right? And granted, of course, even if you do set boundaries, of course, it's not everyone's going to follow it, but you can do the best, especially with like your Twitch community. You can ban people. I know some people just leave things up on their YouTube or Twitch chat just because they still got the viewer or the engagement. And it's like, it is not worth it because that means you're allowing that kind of filth into your community, and people, that's going to drive people away. They don't want to be in a community filled with that kind of trash.
It reminds me of something you said at TwitchCon last year in Vegas. You were on a panel and you said that women should be loud in personality and action. Is that like similar in concept to what you're talking about there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're really in charge of the space that you develop, and I think you have a responsibility to take care of it and to take care of the people that have decided to be in your community. Because, I mean, that's, even if you feel like, oh, I only have like a channel with 5 viewers, that's still 5 people that listen to you and really like you and will hear things that you say, and it will stick with them.
It reminds me of that concept of people when you look at viewership and you convert it to something visual. So, okay, 5 people are watching you. That's 5 people that came over to your house to hang out with you.
Yeah.
You got 100 viewers. You just like filled like a small bar. Or, you got 500, you're in a little auditorium. So, yeah, I do agree. I think there is a responsibility to kind of nurturing the people who are there and the people you want to keep in that space. Has that been challenging for you ever, or is that something you've always done?
I think I've always just done it. I think before I was at IGN and I was a smaller channel, I definitely it was fine. Like, we would always make fun of the person and then ban them. And I think my community has gotten to a really good point where they take care of the trash themselves. I don't even see it most of the times. It's great. I think once you establish what you want your people to be, you can work towards that, and then eventually you'll get there, and it'll stay that way because the people understand the rules, they understand your boundaries, and they will help defend that for you, right? Like, it's because it's also their space. It's not just yours. It's also theirs. It's a shared space.
Did you ever have to learn any of those like hard lessons like that and, throughout your career? Like, do you have any hard lessons that really stand out in mind?
Okay, so this is not like a parasocial thing. There are definitely parasocial relationships that are like issues. I think in terms of setting boundaries, yes, for sure. I'm trying to think of the parasocial relationship that I want to talk about. I've had it happen before where like a mod gets way too close, thinks that they have more power than they do, and then you have to sit down and talk to them. I tried to give them a chance, and then obviously if it doesn't work out, then it's like, okay, well, you gotta go because you're not really taking care of the people that I thought you were going to in the way that I want you to. So it's tough, man, because like you think you know someone, and then as soon as they get a certain power, they completely change. Or as soon as they get close to you, they get very different and very like weird and possessive. And it's like, that's not how things should work. So I've had a lot of lessons in setting a boundary, especially probably as a female streamer, being able to figure out like, this one's going to be a problem. I'm going to keep that very, very far away. And just like very minimally give that person attention.
How do you recognize that? Like, do you recognize that so quickly? Like, how do you do that? Like, what can you tell people who may be struggling with that right now?
I think some of them are very obvious because they're very loud about how they like you, and they're on every single one of your posts, every stream. Like like there's this one guy who constantly goes, "Oh, I like your glasses. What brand are those?" And then like, "Oh, where are those glasses? Where are the red glasses that you wore the other day?" And like, they're very specific. Like, you'll know, like they're very specific. Yeah. And you're like, if I engage with this, it's going to get worse. Or people who try to like rage bait or whatever. Like, I know there's one guy who just, I don't know. I checked his message history and he was fine before, but now all he asks is like, "Oh, IGN let you off early," even when it's like dead of night and I'm streaming. It's very weird. And obviously he's looking for a reaction. So I just don't read it or don't say it out loud. Basically, if you have a doubt about someone's intentions, just don't read it out loud. And I think you'll be fine. Don't react to it.
Don't react. So basically don't feed the trolls.
Yeah. I mean, there are some times that I do decide to like call someone out, but usually it's when it's pretty egregious.
Do you find that moments like that can be good as teaching moments to everyone else? Like, do you think that those people that are being this bad could ever like actually change their behavior, or are they just an example?
They could. It would depend on their mental capacity, like who they are, who they surround themselves with. Because, I mean, let's be real. The current environment online is just so heavily about finding your group and like hating on people who don't agree with every single thing that you like. And because the internet is so big, there are always going to be people that you can find a group with and be real loud about things. So I feel like it validates a lot of people to be just awful to each other. It's possible that they can change, but they have to want to. And I think a lot of them don't want to.
How do you combat such large toxic user bases like that? Because in your position, you obviously have faced things like misogyny and racism, you know? So what do you do to fight against that? Like, do you fight against that? Do you have some other mentality about it?
I think when I do have the capacity for it, I do try to fight it, and I do try to bring light to it. I mean, I used to do it a lot on Twitter, but then ever since Elon took over, it's been pretty unmoderated and like really loud with the really awful people. So I've just not done it as much. But yeah, it's pointing out the really specifically bad comments, or maybe even like dumb comments that don't belong there, calling those out and being like, hey, it's still happening. It helps a lot. And I think it's helped a lot of other people too, because I do remember speaking to, oh my God, what was it? My friend had an esports college, what is it, like a extracurricular thing, like a club. And I got to speak with them and talk to them about my experiences. And some of the kids were like, oh yeah, that's really cool. Like I do the same thing. Like, how would you reply to this person? And it was really cool to be able to guide them through like, oh, you know, don't engage with everything. But if you feel like something is particularly bad and you feel like other people should see like, hey, this stuff still happens, how to choose which one you want to showcase. Because I mean, you're still giving that person a mini platform. So like hiding their username and stuff like that is good, unless it's like really bad, then, don't hide their names. But yeah, I've had a few people tell me that it's been very empowering for themselves to see me do that. And that helped them feel brave enough to also do that for their own selves, which is really nice.
So they see someone in your position with, your quote unquote status, or at least reach. We could say reach, right? And it inspires them to do the same.
Yeah, they've said, oh yeah, I've started clapping back instead of just quietly ignoring or letting this happen. And I'm like, good. I mean, obviously know your mental capacity. Like for me, some days I'm like, I do not want to deal with this. I'll just mute notifications. But some days I'm like, yeah, I feel like I have a fight in me, So I do tell them that, because it gets pretty tiring, because that's still then because the internet's a public place, it still allows the really crappy people to come in and keep doing things.
What do you say to people who feel kind of hopeless in that scenario, where they feel like they can't stem that tide? Like what is the play there?
I mean, honestly, the internet is not that cool. Just like leave social media or take a break. It helps a lot.
Yeah.
What I did was, for me specifically, because Twitter was just so bad, I actually muted all notifications on my phone. So I don't get any pings, which is kind of sucks for people when they're trying to hit me up about like business stuff, but my email's on there, so it's fine.
Right.
But yeah, turning off all notifications is good. Limiting your time to the social media. What I do on Twitter is usually I just post something and then I go. Usually it's about a work or like a video or something. I post it and then I leave. I don't check back. Yeah. And then I think Threads has actually been pretty nice, but it's finding your place that makes you feel comfortable, whether that's like Tumblr or Pinterest, where it's not necessarily interacting with people. You can take a break and come back. It's fine. Like the internet, it's here, but it's also like, you're not missing anything if you get off for a bit,
That seems like a good strategy that I don't think a lot of people talk about enough. Is it seems like so many people have this like always online mentality, like 24/7. And what is it that you do when you disconnect like that helps keep you maybe distracted or away from it? Because a lot of people also will face things like addiction, like chasing the dopamine and whatnot.
Yeah, that's true. I can't speak to addiction, but I will say that, yeah, just making sure that settings are turned so that like I don't feel the need to go check a notification right away. I'll like, do not disturb is great if you have that feature on your phone. Just because I don't have desktop notifications on for anything. So I don't get anything that way anyways. So if I turn that off on my phone, then I'm less inclined to look at something. Occasionally I will. So maybe like once every 2 hours, I'll look at Twitter, scroll for like, give yourself like 5 to 10 posts. And if it's awful, then just close out and you're fine. You got your fill for the day. Yeah, I think limiting the amount of time that you're on it, limiting the amount of posts or temptations that you might get from notifications also really helps. That helped me out a ton. Like just turning off all notifications really helped out a ton. Yeah, you can also block a bunch of words, which I think will filter out things. I think a lot of people have done that and they've unfollowed almost everyone except for like cute animal stuff, which sure, that's your feed.
I have a rather robust set of blocked words on Twitter because it's rough. Like you follow a lot of people and they're great people. And, like you mentioned before, hey, sometimes I will spotlight something really awful. And a lot of times I'm like, okay, I don't want to see this today. Maybe I just don't have the mental energy. And I know a lot of people do. So I think muted terms are a really good play there. And a lot of social media is allowing you to do that. What is it that you do when you are disconnected that helps keep you maybe busy or at peace or whatever?
I mean, working out definitely helps. I think that also just helps me get rid of a lot of stress, going outside, hanging out with friends. Recently, I've been really enjoying not being online or not playing games for an audience, playing games for myself. You can get lost playing games by yourself, for yourself with the lights off, have have whatever drink you want next to you, like whether it's tea, wine, or whatever. Like I remember one night I spent like 3 hours just playing Civ 6 by myself, and it was a blast. I had fun. I was in the dark doing nothing, just playing Civ, and it was really nice to disconnect and just focus on something. If you need something to keep you preoccupied, like find a game that you really like or a hobby. Like the other day I was coloring a cute little like adult coloring book while I was watching a show. That's nice, if you need multiple different forms of stimulation. But I do highly recommend like going out and like meeting friends or doing one little thing, like go to the coffee shop or something, because that definitely distracts you from something that you have in your back pocket, right? It's so easy to retreat back to that little phone screen. But yeah, get yourself, put some physical distance between you and the digital world, because I mean, it's nice.
Is that something you've always done, or is this like a newer habit of yours?
I think it's newer. I think after the pandemic, I'm like, oh man, I really like hanging out with people. Life is very short, and I don't want to spend it stressing about people I don't know on the internet. And I don't want to give more effort to something that I don't care about as much as, I don't know, cultivating relationships with people that are like immediately in my area, right? Like my friends. And yeah, I don't know. I think I've realized that there's no, I don't know. I should spend my energy in other ways because, again, yeah, life is just really short.
Speaking to life being short, with how much work you do you ever worry you're kind of losing yourself in the career, not having enough time for yourself?
Yeah, 100%. I think I felt that with streaming too, just because streaming is, I think it's pretty hard because you're basically, however long you work is, more opportunities for you to make money, right? So I think that's why I don't like streaming as a full-time thing. I think it's very stressful. Mm-hmm. I think it's putting a lot of pressure on you and your community. But even with like full-time jobs like this, even if I do like my job, you definitely get caught up. I'm like, oh, I'll take a vacation once things slow down. But things in the industry do not slow down. And I think after 5 years, I'm finally realizing that. So I am actively trying to block off time for myself, even if it's like 2 days a month or something. I'm trying to find the time for that. It's tough sometimes, some months, because maybe someone else is out and you need to be able to balance out the outages with other people in your department. But yeah, this is definitely like a new thing, and I'm trying to be better about it because I think once you hit 30, you're just like, oh, gross, dude. Like, I haven't, I'm just sitting at my desk. What the heck? Like, I should be going out. There's a park over there. There's something nice. Like, oh my God, there's this really nice coffee shop next door. Why haven't I gone to do that? Yeah, I don't know. I think it makes you realize like time goes by really fast and things are not going to slow down unless you make things slow down for yourself, and you should.
When was your last vacation?
I don't know. Like, I've had time off, but I don't count that as a vacation because like I just stay at home and I do laundry. Like, I catch up on chores.
What would be your ideal vacation?
I really want to try a cruise. I feel like that is like the ultimate form of disconnecting, right? You're literally out in the middle of the ocean. And I mean, you can go on the internet, but it's very limited. And I feel like that slow internet would be really good for me. Just hanging out there, doing all the activities on each deck. I think that'd be really fun.
I'd recommend it. It's been a long time, but I've been on 2. It was in the early 2000s when I was in college. But like being as sheltered as I was as a kid, like it was eye-opening and really exciting and fun, and it was nice to just be able to do things like, I got to see like the pyramids in Mexico, so there's a lot of really cool stuff. Yeah, I think you would love it. I think you should look into that, because even like the boats are really fun.
Yeah, I want to do the packages where it's like all inclusive, so you don't have to worry about anything. That way, when you get there, you're really just relaxed.
Less decisions to make, the better.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. I don't want to make decisions. I'm so tired of making decisions. It's a lot, man. It's a lot of brain power.
It is. It's a shocking drain on what we call our spoons, having to make so many decisions all the time.
Yeah, man. I just want the world to choose for me. No, I'm just kidding. I like making some decisions, but it's nice to turn your brain off and just take a break.
Right. Where would you want this cruise to go?
I don't know, somewhere warm. So I'm trying to think of like the ones that I was looking at. Ooh, I know. I think Joel, my partner, his mom did one that went to Greece, I think.
Wow.
I don't know from where, but yeah, I was like, oh, that sounds awesome. I mean,
Mediterranean cruise?
Yeah. I was like, yeah, that sounds great. I've not been. That'd be cool. I mean, not only are you, honestly, I would just be happy being on the boat, even if it like went around in circles. But having it go to a destination and you spend some time there, I think that'd be so fun.
Yeah. There were a couple of days on those cruises where I was like, I'm not even going to go on shore. I'm just staying on the boat. This is fun.
Yeah. I am a little bit worried about not making it back to the boat on time because I've seen so many videos of people getting left behind. And I'm like, hey, man, my time blindness is so real. Like, I'll just step 1 foot outside and be like, okay, Vin, bye.
So, okay. What are you most proud of accomplishing?
Oh, man. I think recently it would have to be my Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer review from last year. I felt really good about that. Our CEO also used it as an example of like how good FPS review should be done, because I really took the time to calculate different damage numbers and different damage timing, which was really cool. I did side-by-side comparisons, and I really did a lot of research. And I feel like that's the first review that I like put a lot of sweat into. And it felt really good to get that feedback from higher ups and from the public as well. Just because I think because I still do fight that whole like, oh, why is a girl doing FPS reviews? And I have a reputation to uphold as the FPS person at IGN. So it made me feel really good that was a review that was heralded by so many people. So that made me, I think that probably is my most proud accomplishment so right now. Yeah, if I think of anything else, I'll let you know.
So if I were to look at that and distill it down into more basic elements, that's something I like to do. Is it true then that one of the reasons why that is such a big accomplishment to you is because you received recognition? Yeah,
I think I got the validation that like, yeah, I am good at my job. Yeah, once I did it and I was like, I already felt good about it, but then seeing other people confirm it, I was like, okay, good. You know, it's again that what is it called? Imposter syndrome. You feel it.
Yeah.
And then when you see people confirm that little bit of positivity you have, you're like, okay, yeah, right. I should feel this way. It's just a little bit of validation.
So it almost helps you combat your own mental struggles.
It does. Yeah.
Now, how important is the reputation to you? Because you said it also helped with that as well.
I think most people who know me, I don't need to maintain a reputation. Like I don't need to do anything to prove that I belong there, right? I think it's just the stereotype that I really love being able to destroy, because a lot of people still hate the fact that I'm the top person or whatever for this. And it just makes me feel really good to know that they're really upset that I'm still there. So that reputation I like to uphold, just because I'm someone who takes a lot of pride in being as thorough as possible and very detailed. And that just kind of goes against what those people think that I know. They think I don't know anything. So it feels really good to be like, oh, I know that and more.
So it's also another avenue for you to combat injustice.
A little bit, yeah.
How important is that versus your own self-satisfaction in the work you created? To elaborate a little more, this is something I see a lot with creators and artists, is this constant battle between seeking validation and creating something for themselves. And so like you have very reasonable attempts to seek recognition and combat injustice here. But also you were speaking on, oh, I really did a lot of work on this and I liked what I made because it was very in depth and it was well done. Like, where is that balance for you? Which is more important?
I would say the quality of the work is more important than the actual validation, just because, again, as a journalist, I think if you're doing things just for validation, it'll reflect, and you won't be able to tell the news properly, right? You won't be able to properly elaborate on things that people are really looking for, the clarity that you are the only one who can provide. So I think that's why it sucks when I'm very proud of specific interviews or things that I've done. People like pick it apart and they're unhappy. But I realized that I did do my best as a journalist. These people just don't understand the things that go into this, go into the work, and they just think that they're able to do things better, or, they think you can get away with being rude to your interviewer. And it's very interesting. But I think seeing that, it's like, okay, I don't need the validation. I know I did my best work here, and I provided people with the questions that they had. They're just upset. They're projecting their dismay at me because I was the one to ask the same questions they had. Even though they're really upset at the answers they got, they don't know how to project that, so they just do it through personifying the answers through you. So I don't know. I definitely think that I put the work over validation at the end of the day.
Yeah. It seems like too much seeking of validation can just break into things like clout seeking and diminishing the work one is creating. So you definitely seek that balance, but you have this mentality that your own self-interest in the work you're doing is more important because it makes you feel better about what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it feeds into itself. Even if, let's see, I did a like mini documentary thing with Respawn and their work during COVID about how they were able to keep developing a game from their own homes, how they were able to communicate. I was very proud of it. I thought it was great. I thought it answered a lot of questions that maybe other developers might have on how to do a remote structure. Didn't necessarily do well, didn't do a lot of numbers. We didn't really get a lot of buzz about it, but I was very proud of it. And I thought that it brought a lot of what that studio does to light. So they were happy. I was happy. Yeah, I definitely think the work is better than validation at the end of the day, even if it's higher up saying like, hey, we should be writing things like this. Cool. That's great. But I'm really happy with what I'm able to provide the audience and the people that I am doing this work with. Specifically, something that comes to mind is, I forget what season it was, but one of the events that I went to for an Apex season launch, the developer and community people pulled me aside and asked me to read a blog post that they wrote ahead of time to get some feedback on it, because I had done this video kind of breaking down their monetary structure and why it wasn't great, why people were upset about it, and how potentially they could fix it, or at least fix like the trust with the industry or with the community. And the fact that they had asked me to look this over before they released it to the public, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's not something I wrote about, not something that I would report on, but helping them out with that, it felt really good. And that's not even like validating for me or anything. It was, I don't know, helping people even through like writing articles or doing that is way more rewarding than having someone being like, oh, this was really good. Good job.
It's one of my favorite things about having privilege is being able to boost others up, because I know what it's like to be there. Yeah. So like, how much do you put of yourself into your work?
Quite a lot, I think. Trying to think. Recently it's been not a lot, just because I've been doing a lot of guides and there's not a lot of like personal stuff you can do with that. So I'm trying to think about, I did a preview for a game called Spectre Divide, which is an FPS game. And I got to put a lot about my personality in there and about my own personal history with games like that. So it's very cool to be able to insert that. I remember the first time I wrote a preview, I was like, hey, can can I use I statements? Is that okay? And they're like, yeah, you're writing about your experience. I was like, awesome. So yeah, I really like being able to put myself into those kinds of work.
Do you have like a dream project that you want to work on or a dream job?
I feel like my dream job doesn't, well, I guess it does exist, but it's independent, I think, because I want to continue doing this, being able to do reviews, previews, news stuff, while also hosting, doing esports stuff. That all comes with being a freelance hire, I think, just because there's not really a company that does all of that, you know?
Right.
So I feel like I'm kind of like one step away from that if I do choose to go independent, which is a terrifying thought right now with the way the industry is.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm as close to it as I can be, I think, because I'm still allowed to do things on the side, which is very nice.
How rare do you think it is for people to be able to say that?
Very rare. Yeah, very rare. And I mean, even if you're in your dream job, doesn't mean that every day is fun and great, right? Like, you're still allowed to not be happy sometimes in your dream job. It's okay.
Have you ever found yourself losing sight of that?
Oh, yeah. Like, I remember I was put on I forget what game it was, but I was like, I don't like this game. I hate logging into work because I have to play this game and I have to take notes and I have to write stuff on it. I'm bad at this game. I don't like it. But, you know, it's very fleeting once you go to the next project and you're like, oh, right. It's not all like this. It's just the fact that there are things you have to do in your job, right? Not even if you don't like it.
Do you ever have any regrets?
I don't think so. There's no opportunity that I've turned down that I've like regretted, as specifically in the IGN career. Outside, I don't think I regret anything either. Yeah. I'm very picky about the things that I say yes to. So I think that helps a lot.
Does that also apply to personal life?
I think so. Yeah. It's very hard to make friends as an adult. So
yeah.
I feel like that also helps with the whole selection process. When you do meet someone, you're like, are you cool? You're cool. All right, well, we'll trial basis, and then, you know, you're like, okay, you're kind of cool. All right, yeah, you're cool. We get along, sure. Because I think that's why we have a lot of acquaintances, and I used to treat acquaintances like friends because I was like, oh, they probably expect the same energy back. They don't. So I think figuring out who you really want to spend the most energy on helps a lot too. Same with like everything else, you know.
How much of that energy do you spend on yourself?
Not as much as I should.
I think a lot of us could say that.
Yeah, it's just hard to. It's like, I don't know. It's one of those things of like, I'm like, oh man, I should really. It comes with like the whole taking a vacation and taking time off. You get swept up in life. It's so hard to take a break, and it's always at the breaking point. You're like, oh God, that's right. I didn't do this.
Do you think that's what the lifting has been for you though? Is that self-work?
Yeah, that's definitely, it's so weird. Yeah, putting my body through stress is definitely my self-care. It is.
That's an interesting way of framing it.
Yeah, it's so funny because I'm literally like tearing my muscles apart and stuff. And, you know, I do get injuries, but it does make me feel better mentally. And I think it is my me time. Even though Joel does go with me, it's still very like, you know, we listen to our music. It's very much, it's not me with anyone else. It's not me against anyone else. It's literally me against myself in that moment, which is why I love powerlifting so much. Even when you are trying to lift really heavy weights, you're not really competing with anyone else. It's about you and how much you're able to do. So I think that does help me get like a mental reset in a lot of ways.
Yeah. I'm seeing parallels here between those two topics that we were just discussing. And the parallel here is kind of discussing, you're talking about inflicting temporary pain for a long-term gain. And you were just mentioning that with your job about, oh, I really hate this game and I don't want to write about this. But then you get to the next part and it's like the sum ends up outweighing the bad. How hard is it to do that? Like, how do you find that? Because there are a lot of people out there that don't have that. They're, and I'm not saying, oh, you're privileged, you should do things. It's like, okay, there are a lot of personal ways to accomplish that in everything you do. How do you personally find that?
I don't know.
That's a good answer.
I mean, I don't know, dude. Like, it's maybe it's like you get used to things being like, you get used to doing or dealing with things a certain way, and that just kind of ends up just being your kind of way of approaching things. I don't know. It's like,
yeah.
Joel's always like, oh, you always make things so hard for yourself. And I'm like, I don't mean to, but maybe it's because I know how to deal with that. I don't know.
So is it more like you are trying to find the good in the things that you find yourselves in, or do you seek the things out instead?
I think I've been seeking out a lot more recently.
Yeah.
I think I used to just accept that things would just happen, but I'm like, no, I can control some of it, right? Like, especially being younger, you're just like, oh my God, everything sucks. Why did, and then you realize, oh, I can actually control that, whether it's, maybe talking less to someone who is very toxic in your life, whether it's a friend, family member, whatever. It's okay to put yourself first. And I think that was the first step in really understanding, I can do things for myself. It's not selfish. It's okay.
How do you seek those out and prep for those kinds of opportunities? Because a lot of people have struggled to recognize them when they're presented.
I think a lot of the times it's when I'm talking about something and being like, I feel kind of bad about this, but I did this. And, a friend or whoever I'm talking to would be like, oh, why do you feel bad about that? That's awesome. I'm just like, oh, yeah, you're right. It is. So I think it helps having external conversations because, I mean, let's be real. Your conversation with yourself can be pretty skewed sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think having a conversation with someone else, whether it's your friend, your family, it helps to reinstate that feeling of, hey, it's okay to do this. If you like this, it's fine. I think the biggest example is I think for an injury, I started getting monthly massages or something. And I was like, oh, it sounds so indulgent, right? It's the massage, you get the whole robe and you get to sip your champagne before your thing. And Joel was like, well, you don't really do a lot of nice things for yourself. So I think this is fine. I'm like, oh my God, you're right. I really don't. This is nice. That's a little treat from me. And I think it takes a while to understand that it's okay to treat yourself, right? Which is why I always just, whenever someone goes, oh, should I? I'm like, yeah, just do it. Treat yourself. It's easier for me to say it to someone else than to do, which is so annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I get yelled at for that a lot.
Yeah, it's annoying because I'm like, I can say it to someone else. Why can't I do it to myself?
Yeah. Do as I say, not as I do. Story of our lives right there.
Seriously.
So it's important to have those external reminders then, so people can help frame it for you as it actually is.
Yeah.
Now, you talked about this before, and this does touch on everything that we do. You mentioned ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you known?
Probably a year.
A year? Really?
Yeah. I always just thought that I was just really bad at focusing and everything. Because I grew up with very strict conservative parents who were like, oh, yeah, Asian families growing up is just like, oh, there's nothing wrong with you. Nothing wrong. Right. Which is why when people are like, oh, well, in South Korea, there are less people with ADHD or mental health issues. It's like, no, it's not true. They just hide it or they just don't know.
Right.
And even I think last year I was trying to get diagnosed because I was like, I know I have issues and I need help focusing. And especially after the pandemic, I feel like things went really downhill. And it's very hard to get diagnosed as an adult. So I'm still working on that. But yes. I do know that I am definitely neurodivergent. And I have at least gotten diagnosed with existential OCD because that was something that really launched me into investigating, why is my brain this way? So yeah, I'm still working on it, but oh my God, trying to see a specialist anywhere nowadays, even with insurance, is just awful.
Now, existential OCD, that's the one where you're constantly doom spiraling. Is that right?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's and I had someone ask, what's the difference between that and depression? Well, depression isn't a constant weight that you feel that your brain literally cannot move away from. I feel like with existential OCD, I keep thinking the same questions over and over again. And then it sends you to panic about like, why can't I answer this? Or like the answer is no, there's no point. So then what's the point of doing anything? And you kind of freeze, like all your motor functions just kind of freeze. And you're like, there's no point. And like, there was a certain point where it got so bad. I was like, what's the point of me working out if we're all going to die anyways? Like, why does it matter? Like, I'm going to die buff. Who cares? Like, I'm going to turn into a bag of bones anyways. And it was real bad. And I did get on some like anxiety and depression medication, which did help a little bit. And it's funny because one of the medications that I'm on also is supposed to help with ADHD a little bit, like in an off way. So I'm like, okay, it's better. It's more manageable, which is good. Yeah,
there's no fix for ADHD, but there are ways to mitigate, and it's a process. So, how long have you known then, about the whole OCD thing? Because OCD tendencies tend to go hand in hand with ADHD because of the whole intrusive thoughts.
Yeah, and, it does, right?
Dopamine seeking and. You work around routines and habits and things. How long has that affected you and you've been aware of it?
I think I've been aware of it since I was a kid. I just didn't want to talk about it because my parents would always think that I'm weird. Or I think that I thought it was like a robot as a child. Because I was like, so with giving an example, if I were to walk across the street, and this still is in my mind, if I step on a certain stripe of like a crosswalk, I have to step on the next stripe the same exact way. Otherwise, I feel like my feet are off. Whenever I would do whenever I'd go running, if one of my heels scraped against my ankle, I would have to scrape it against the other side just to make it feel even. So it's very weird things. I'm not, and it's weird because like I wish I had the cleanliness OCD, but I don't. I don't. So it's very interesting things that I get very specific about, and I've known that as a kid because I was like, oh shoot, I stepped on it this way. My foot feels weird. I have to step on the other one this way and then I'll feel even. But I always thought, oh my God, what if I'm just a robot? I'm not a real person. And then there's the existential OCD. So, it just like as a kid, I was very anxious. I was very anxious. I grew up constantly stressed out. So I think I've learned to just excel in stress. So, I think I've known since I was a kid, but I just didn't know what it was. And then as an adult, I was like, oh, that's OCD. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I recommend not playing Horizon Zero Dawn.
Why? Oh no. What?
It's very existential.
Oh, okay. No, that's why I couldn't play Soma. Soma was very existential too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That actually really messed me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would avoid HCD. It's an incredible game, but if you struggle with existentialism, I would say maybe just
interesting. I've never been told that, but okay. All right.
It's one of the most existential games I've played.
Is it really?
So,
oh my God.
Yes.
Okay. Huh.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. It's amazing, but yeah, if it, know your limitations. So
yeah. Okay.
So, how much do you think ADHD has affected your life?
I think a lot. I mean, I was only good at subjects in school that I liked. So writing, I was really good at. Gym, I was really good at. Everything else, just I had no interest. I would always fall asleep trying to do the homework for some of those things. And, doing the research now, I'm like, oh, it's normal for someone like me. It's okay. I'm not just oddly wired. I am oddly wired, but we are.
Like,
it's okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's wild. I'm like, oh my God, all this stuff that I was so hard on myself about, it really wasn't my fault. Like it's how things are for myself. So it's weird, man. It's weird getting that 10 years out. I'm like, God damn it.
Do you go through the stages of grief with that? That's very common when you learn it.
I think so. Yeah. I think, because it's like the wasted potential, right? Like, oh my God, I could have been so good at this thing. Ugh. Yeah. I think there's that. Like, would I have finished college? Probably. But like, would I be happy doing that? I don't know. So there's not a lot that I would change about my life. Right. But I am like upset that I didn't get the opportunity. So.
Yeah. For me, it's always been, what could these like relationships have been had I known?
Yeah.
You know, like just, and I mean like, you know, colleagues, friendships, like, you know, intimate relationships, like anything like that. Like, what could have this been like? Just having that knowledge, not like, you know, wanting to go against it, just knowing it. Because I do feel like just knowing it is a certain kind of empowerment that when you can actually explain why you do the things you do, it's no longer negative. It's just who you are.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Like I remember one specific, I was actually just talking to my best friend from high school about this. I had a really bad falling out with one of my other high school friends because I just wasn't able to keep up with conversation, like text them back and stuff. Because for me, once a notification is gone, it's just gone in my head. Like I don't, if you don't pop up for me, I kind of forget that I know you exist, right? Like I know you didn't just fall off the planet, but it doesn't occur to me that I should say something, right? I tried to explain that to her. I did. And this was when I still did not understand I was neurodivergent. And I was like, I don't know what it is. And I'm so sorry. But like, just because I don't reply to you or text you doesn't mean I don't still feel the same amount of love for you. And of course that, you know, I understand some people need very specific needs with friendships. And I don't blame her at all. But it does suck that I had no idea why I just could not do this one thing. Right. So.
Yeah, we have some pretty wicked object permanence issues.
I'm like, I make fun of babies, but I'm like, I'm no better than you.
Yeah, right? Yeah, same skill level there. Ugh. Man. How does it feel to you then to know that you've accomplished everything you've done on hard mode?
Pretty good. Like, I feel like my whole life has been hard mode. Like, even without the mental thing, I'm like, man, I do make things harder for myself. I don't know. I guess maybe it's just me finding comfort in what I know. But it's like, I remember my therapist from a couple of years ago being like, it doesn't have to be that way, though. Like, you can know something else. And I'm like, yeah, it's just hard. That means I have to learn something new.
That's just more spoons. It takes out of your limited dopamine you get every day.
Yeah.
It's a real struggle. Now, knowing that you have that, are you the kind of person that will want to advocate for that, or is it just something that you want to, you know, manage for yourself? Because I think both methods are valid.
Yeah, I want to advocate for it because I think, especially for me, my specific background. You know, we immigrated from South Korea. A lot of children of immigrants, you know, they don't necessarily have access to healthcare that would even let them get that sort of diagnosis or a specialist to look at them, which my parents didn't even want to like go through that. Right. We only went to the doctor if you were really, really, really sick. But yeah, I want people to know that it's OK to push for a second opinion, because the worst that's going to happen is they're like, oh, well, second opinion. Yeah, you're fine. Or, you know, it's this, you should do this. It's your health. And I keep going back to like, life is so short, but seriously, like you don't need to spend the entirety of your life wondering. It's worth getting it checked out, even if your parents think that it's nothing. Because how many times have you seen the cases of nothing, like people saying it's nothing, actually turn into something? So, right. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough because I understand not a lot of people have access to specialists or insurance, but you know, maybe when you do have enough money, you're able to like push for it, you should, because it's your body and you know it's your life. You're making it harder, and you're struggling, and you don't have to.
Speaking of ADHD, I'm having a brain fart right there. Oh yeah, now I remember. I also had to get a second opinion.
It's hard as an adult. They don't want to diagnose you with anything. It's weird.
They don't. General practitioner was like, he was like, you know how many people have come up to me and say I have ADHD? And I'm like, do you know how many of them probably had it? And you just said no.
It's because I feel like we were in the generation of like, our parents were like, no, there's something wrong with you, right? Because it was back when there was that stigma with anything mental health. So I feel like, of course, now there's a lot of people coming out because they're like, hey, this is not normal. And as you get older, you know, your memory gets a little bit worse. Your symptoms get a little bit tougher to deal with. And so you want to figure out anything, right? Like I had to go through like a sleep specialist because the lady who was diagnosing was like, oh, you're just not getting good enough sleep. Got a CPAP. They're still experiencing the same things, ma'am. Give me drugs. Oh, it's frustrating.
I could say a lot about the medicines that I tried for it. There's a lot. That's a whole thing we can talk about some other time. Because this is your time. How open are you to treatments for it? Like,
very
is that
open.
Something you'd be interested?
Yeah. Electroshock, maybe not. But like, I'm very open to all other things, you know?
I haven't heard of that one, and I'm glad I haven't. Good Lord.
It's usually for like really bad depression or like, you know, chronic pain and stuff like that, which I'm glad my existential OCD could be treated with medicine because it really got to a bad point. But yeah.
Wow. I'm glad you were able to find help for that. That's
yeah.
Because I've heard of OCD, but not that variant of it. That's a new one to me.
It sucks. Like I didn't want to eat. I was like, what's the point? And like, I lost my love for like even gym or games or anything. I was like, oh my God, this sucks. Like it's like depression on turbo.
Damn.
Yeah.
Now that is kind of one of the hallmarks of ADHD is the executive dysfunction. A lot of people just see that as, from the outside looking in, they see that as laziness, right? But they don't recognize that it applies to literally everything you want to do, including things you love. And things like eating. So...
yeah.
So, like, how have you navigated that? Because, like, everyone's story is different, especially if they have the same condition.
It's hard. So right now, being very conscious of the fact that there are certain things that I do that are obviously tics and obviously different phases of my brain being dumb. It's funny because so Joel can eat the same meal every day, three times a day, right? I cannot. Every meal needs to be different. Sometimes I'll like get fixated on one specific meal and then I'll have that for like a few days in a row. And then I'm like, oh my God, I never want to eat this again.
Right.
And if I have a specific craving, I need to have it. No other food will do. And it's really dumb. And people are like, oh, you're just stuck up. I'm like, no, I literally just don't want anything else other than that. And it's not even like a chocolate cake or something. It's just, I don't know. Sometimes I want noodles and I want noodles. If I eat rice, I will be very unhappy. I can do it, but it won't feel good. And I'll feel like, you know, I'll feel bad. And then even with like, if I take breaks during work, I just lay on the floor. I just lay on the floor and I can't move. I'm just like, oh, it's my floor decompressing time. And I just lay there and I don't do anything. I don't understand it, but it makes me feel better. I just lay on the ground and Joel comes in and he's like, floor girl. Okay, floor time today. I'm like, yep, I need my floor time. It's very weird. And on the weekends, I'm very okay with just laying down on the couch and doing nothing. Just doing nothing.
Right.
Yeah. And growing up, I was told, oh my God, you're so lazy. You need to be doing something, which is why I probably feel that need to like, I need to constantly be busy, which is why I keep myself busy. But yeah, that's been a tough one to crack. The whole, you're not lazy. You're just resting because you're tired.
Right.
Yeah.
Your brain is always exhausted. It's not producing the same amount of dopamine and norepinephrine that everyone else's is.
Yeah.
And it's only producing them in specific situations and not the same ones as them.
Yeah. Like when I get my little sweet treat. So fuck off. I'm going to get my sweet treat.
If you know those batteries for you, that's awesome. That's a process too for everyone finding those.
Yeah. And I'm still figuring out like cost effective wise.
Cost effective wise and stomach effective wise.
Oh my God, dude.
That's one that hits me too, is the late binging. Like that one's really a real struggle to fight.
That gets Joel. Yeah.
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah. He'll just suddenly appear with like a bowl of cereal. And I'm like, yes, I understand.
Yeah. The 2 a.m. cereal. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I know it. Oh, there's a lot of things about ADHD that I have studied about over the last
That's another thing. You get super fixated on learning things and you become a really good at knowing the specific things. So that's so funny.
I am really struggling to make sure that you have the seat here and not me right now, because you know how it gets with ADHD. You want to just say everything.
It's so funny. This was a bad idea. Oh God.
Well, congratulations on knowing that about yourself, for one. That's a big first step, a really big first step. And I hope you get the official recognition too. It took me about 3 years, but I got there. Some people get it much faster. My friend got it in a month. So
wow. What the? Yeah. Wow. Where did they
go? Really, really good psychiatrist / therapist.
Okay.
And she was just like, yeah, okay, we'll try this. Like, she was just on board.
Yeah, what's the, like, what's the harm in trying? I don't understand why people have such a hang up about, hey, let's see if this medication, I'm already fucking up my brain with the medications anyways. Like, can I just try something else? Yeah, like, let's, please, just put my mind at ease.
I think what helped sell it for me is I told them I want to try non-stimulants first because they're not controlled like the other stuff.
Okay, yeah. I think that's a little bit tougher.
Yeah. Well, they didn't work, but kind of. That's a different story. Like I'm on 2, so.
Oh, okay. I mean, sometimes you need a weird concoction.
Yeah, it is. Like it's different for everyone, from what my understanding. And I can tell you all about it some other time if you ever have questions.
Sure.
What does it mean to you to know that you have that?
I don't know if I have a meaning to it. I think it makes me more frustrated. Because I'm not able to get it officially helped, right? It's also very funny because Joel knows for sure he has been diagnosed, but because he doesn't have insurance, he can't afford the medication, so he's just been self-medicating with caffeine. Yeah. Which I'm like, that's not good, but man, what choice do we have? So it's I think it's frustrating. I don't know if it means anything. It doesn't mean that I can talk to my other friends who are very neurodivergent, and it's very nice. It's very nice to talk to other people who have very similar problems like me, and we can commiserate, or we can I think those are the best friendships. So I think it means I'm able to make deeper connections with people who understand that I'm not always going to message back, but like our relationship has not changed. And I think that means a lot to me. Yeah.
Same goes to you. I will always apply that to you as well. So.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Okay. I've got a good one here. So from the outside looking in, you're in constant growth, and not just professional improvement, but self-improvement as well. Mm-hmm. What does it feel like to you to be a source of inspiration to people?
It feels weird because I don't see myself like I understand. I think it's that imposter syndrome again. It just feels weird because I'm like, oh man, I came from nothing. I feel like I was one of those very weird, rare cases where someone took a chance on me, because usually to get into the gaming industry, even if it's like an associate contractor job, you usually know someone. Everyone who I know has started working at IGN after me has always known someone at the company, similar to other jobs at like GameSpot and stuff. And so I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I was a very rare case. So maybe that was luck, or maybe it was, the work that I had to put in to get the job. So I do understand the appeal of looking at me as an inspiration. It still feels very weird to me, and I don't know how to handle it because I'm very bad at taking compliments, and you know this because you're also very similar. You feel the same way. So I think for me, it's like, I can understand it. It's hard for me to accept it. It's a little bit easier to accept when it's someone who also looks like me, has similar backgrounds to me. So I did have someone email me, my work email, about how they were very happy to have a South Korean who was on the forefront of gaming stuff. It made them feel really good and made them feel hope for, whenever they decide to get into it. And I was like, oh my God, that felt really good. So I guess it goes around to that representation thing again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's representation and not just more than what you've done, but who you are as well.
I think so. Yeah. Because, and I think that is why I'm so open as a person, because it's like, it's not a straightforward path. It's really not. And it's not easy. And I think a lot of people are also like, well, I know this thing. I know how to do video editing, but it's only because it's only this that I learned on YouTube. It's like, no, that's still valuable. And I think I kind of represent a lot of that, because a lot of the things that I knew, it was self-taught. I learned more once I started working, but the self-taught knowledge was still very important. And I think that's one thing that I really tell people when they're like, oh, what advice do you have for me? And I'm like, anything you self-taught, like you teach yourself, is still important. Put that on a resume. It's still a skill, you know.
What would you like the future to say about you?
That I had a fat ass.